Emotions, they're great qualitative statements, but we also know that you've got to fund this program. So while we're talking about philanthropy, talk about how philanthropic efforts have helped fuel your organization.
Oh man, so I like to say that just like last year, during Black Philanthropy Month, we was able to raise almost $5,000, leveraging the Share Charlotte relationship, highlighting our philanthropies. But really, in order for our door to continue impacting and meeting the needs of the community, we need dollars, right? We need dollars. We need talent, treasure, and all that other good stuff. And time, right? So in order for our organization to keep going, we're looking for what we call sustainability partners. I have a lot of people say, hey, what do you need? And sometimes it's not about what do we need or what do we want, but how can you help us sustain what we're doing? And what that look like for us right now, we have a need for, one of our urgent needs is sustainability partners, meaning funders who give to us on a multi-year basis. Monthly donation, thinking about, think about you and your family budget, what can you give and say, this time of the month, I can allot this amount of money to the Academy of Goal Achievers every month for the next 2 or 3 years. That allow us to really transition these students off to college successfully. So last year, we raised from the year before I even became full-time, doing this thing full-time, first year, I'm going to tell you the truth, first year, our budget was $1,488.38.
Ballin'!
But the power of philanthropy, once that increased, right, we serve 15 students. This is what funding does. We serve 15 students. This year was our first 6-figure year, right, which led that way to us serving 124 students. 100% of our our high school students went to college successfully. 98% chose to go to HBCUs, and that was really big for us. And the more funding we have, the more we can impact and the more youth and families we can serve. So we truly believe that the income we have coming in really directly impact how many youth and families we can help get over that generational poverty. They did a research on Lean Opportunity Task Force report. They said the change of student life, there's three determinants that determine the trajectory of a person's life, and that's early childhood education, college career readiness, and family safety and stability. As an organization, we don't focus on early childhood education, but we do 2 out of the 3. We focus on college career readiness, and we do focus on family safety and stability with our 2-generational model. So we're not an organization just out here doing, what we want to do. We really look at the research of our current city needs and see where our line are there, and are we really focusing on the things that are going to give us the outcomes that our community needs.
And so that was one of the things we talked about on episode 1. And Nicole, who is the director of engagement, for the foundation, she was, eliciting this commentary about how funding agencies need to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to giving dollars and not restricting that money to making you have to somewhat, jump through a multitude of hoops. A triple axel to a cartwheel, through a flaming hoop, only for $800. And you might not even get the $800. And so can you talk to that experience, one, about, writing to grants, your thoughts on restrictive funds, and what can organizations do to make this process a little bit easier?
Yeah, so unrestricted funds is the key. Now, why do we say unrestricted funds? Because then the organization is able to hit its most urgent needs. If someone right now gave the Academy of Goal Achievers $5 million to do programming and don't touch our operational budget, we would not have anyone to do that programming to spend those expenses, right? So would that impact still be there? Right? And that's just the truth, right? That's just the truth. So unrestricted funding is, really key. I think even when you think about a grassroots organization, Black-led organization, for a lot, that's pivotal in changing the trajectory of our organization, getting to that next step, and being able to bring on and hire a team of experts to help us lead and impact more students and more family lives. But yes, and then I'm a part of Unite Charlotte, which is a United Way initiative. And I think they're really doing a really good job at building capacity. so they understand like the funding piece, right? The application is still a United Way application, but I truly believe it's making us think about the next level, right? It's really is there to prepare us to get, even bigger funding that we normally would not be prepared for in the future. So to me, I look at it as a piece of, preparing me for that next level. But a big piece of the funding in our city is really based on relationships.
Of course.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that too, is really, putting a face, are they able to put a face to your grant application? And I began to realize the more relationships I had in the community, the more access I would give my youth and families I serve, because it increases the chances of those yeses that was previously a no.
Right. So Angelique, when you hear that, that commentary, from the executive director, the founder of the organization, and recognizing that they are really offsetting a lot of costs and a cost burden for families in our community, what would you say to funders as if you've seen stacks of applications and they're ruminating through all that to make a decision on programs, and some programs get funded year after year, probably making not the same amount of impact that a program like this is. What are you thinking about when you hear that, and also what would you tell funders?
I hate that it is so much rigmarole that goes into it. Although from one standpoint, I understand that there's politics to everything. But when it comes to organizations where we're talking about youth and things of that nature, and I know that stats show that there have been funding for other things that, not to throw shade on anything, but things that essentially really don't do anything for the community, that are superficial value. And we're talking about furthering kids, knowledge of things, and letting them get out here and just do great things in the world. And this programs like this impact that. And I just don't understand why it's that way.
Trust me,
it's a little disheartening.
The people who are writing those grants don't understand it either.
There's so many politics in certain things that make it very hard, and so many stipulations, and it can as a parent you can feel defeated when you hear these things, when you're trying to go so far to advocate for some of these programs that would touch and affect so many. Like this year, I want to become one of those parents because, I haven't always been in the greatest financial situation, but I want to get to a point where I can become one of those parents that's giving back to the program because I know how important it is. I can speak to it. And this year, I'm really trying to figure out how can I use my creative ability to kind of help push that, because for me, I'm like, okay, there's funding with, the government, things like that, those are but is there a way that the community can get together and we can figure out how to raise this as well? So it makes me want to become more involved, to be more helpful in that.
That's awesome.
And I learned so much, you know what I mean? Like with this program that I've seen, like even sitting here today doing this podcast and just listening to you speak, every time you speak about the program, I learn more and more about it. So this type of these outlets is very helpful.
Very much.